So we're here today. There's a discussion going on right now about the Port of Oakland, what should happen to it, and we're saying stop the privatization of a billionaire trying to blackmail the people of Oakland to destroy the port. Fisher's told the people of Oakland it's my way or the highway. That's his attitude. He thinks he owns everything and controls everything. We got to stop this privatization of public land. That's what we're about. Stop stealing the land in Oakland for a privatizer, for a billionaire. He's got enough money to rebuild a stadium at the Coliseum. He's got lots of money. He doesn't want to spend it for that because he wants to build 3,000 condos. That's where he's at. Let's build some $1 million condos for the rich in Oakland. That's where he's coming from. We need more $1 million condos. That's where he's coming from. We got to support the port. We got to stop destroying workers' jobs, union jobs, good-paying union jobs. Of course, he doesn't give a damn about it. In fact, I understand he offered peanut franchises to people in East Oakland if they wanted to support the stadium. Peanut franchises. That's where he's coming from. And he's promised people that he would give them money for public housing, for low-income housing. He lied. He lied to the people. Hands off the Port of Oakland. Stop. Hands off the Port of Oakland. 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 Well, the other thing we're here to talk about is how some politicians, Rob Bonta and Nancy Skinner, would pass a bill to allow for the destruction of the Port of Oakland and also have taxpayers pay for this stadium. Can you imagine that? I mean, in other words, the billionaires don't have enough money. Let's have a tax on the working class to pay for his stadium. What kind of business is this? What kind of crap is that? I mean, but that's the arrogance of these billionaires, and they have the politicians in their pockets, so they passed a bill for, you should call it the Fisher bill. Billionaire Fisher bill. That's what this is. A bill to benefit a billionaire to build a stadium. I say, go to hell. Go to hell. Go to hell. Go to hell. Go to Vegas. Take your money and go to Vegas. But he wants to steal from the people of Oakland. He wants to privatize the port. And they've been doing that all over the country. Even in South Africa and Durban, they try to privatize the ports. Because the developers really don't care if there's a port or not, as long as they can build more condos for people. But what is it going to mean for working people, black and brown people in Oakland, who work in the port, who survive in the port? And the union has just brought in 300 more workers, casuals. They're providing jobs, and they're going to destroy it. So this is a real sham here, the destruction of the Port of Oakland. It's an attack on the working class. And also, they're trying to bribe people. They have given money. They offered franchises for peanut sellers in the new stadium. Now, how much do you think you're going to make as a peanut seller if you got your franchise in his new stadium? How much is that going to be? Peanuts. Peanuts, that's exactly right. Peanuts for your franchise. So we've been to many of the hearings, and unfortunately as well, there's a problem with some of the union leaders here in Oakland. In the Alameda Building Trades and Alameda Labor Council, they're ready to sell out the maritime workers for the quote-unquote jobs. So once a stadium is built, these workers are working someplace else. But the people who need the stadium for their jobs aren't going to have that port, the maritime port. And in this case, even SSA, which is attacks the union, even the PMA is against this because it'll destroy the port. They just bought cranes at SSA. Well, the cranes are no good if they can't move the ships, if they can't turn the ships. The cranes are no good. So you need a working port, and we need we need housing in Oakland. We need public housing, but we shouldn't rely on the billionaires. We should say to the billionaires, we're going to have a capital tax on you. That's how we're going to pay for housing. How about a 50% capital tax on the billionaires, on Bezos and these other billionaires? That's what we need, but nobody's talking about that. That's why we need a Labor Party, because we need a Labor Party that's going to stand up for working people and is going to put an end to the scams and the theft of public property. That's what we're talking about, straight out theft. And it's so brazen. I mean, their arrogance. I mean, bullies, bullies, bullies. That's what they do. Bullies, bullies, bullies. They refuse to talk to the maritime unions. Libby Schaff and the director of the port, who's also the executive director of the building trades, refused to talk to the maritime unions. What is that? What kind of solidarity is that the AFL-CIO building trades refused to talk to the maritime workers? I think that's outrageous. When you talk about solidarity, it means uniting all the working class, not some. So we're here today, they're still talking. Most of the comments have been against this stadium. And people understand if this stadium is built, it's an attack on the working class, it's gentrification. And this is exactly what's happened in San Francisco, because they made it a tourist trap with low-paying jobs. San Francisco used to be the most important port on the West Coast. And as a result of the developers, it's been destroyed. So it's no longer a working port except for Pier 80. So we're saying, look, defend the port, defend the working people of Oakland, defend the maritime workers. The majority of workers in ILW are black, and they're the ones that are going to be attacked. The workers who built their lives, their families here in the Port of Oakland are now coming under attack. And we got to stop it. Enough of this. I mean, the city of Oakland has spent millions of dollars pushing John Fisher's development. That's where their money's going. The money they spent pushing John Fisher's development could have gone for housing of the homeless in Oakland, the people in tents. Instead, they're putting it to give it to Fisher. Well, I guess, Fisher's more important than the people of Oakland.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. We say, the hell with Fisher, stop privatization. 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 And privatization, unfortunately, is not just at the Port of Oakland. Privatization is also going down in Oakland in charter schools, where billionaires, and we're talking about personally John Fisher and his wife, who's on the board of KIPP in San Francisco. They're trying to destroy the Malcolm X Academy, which is a black school in Hunters Point. Imagine that. They built a KIPP school right next to the Malcolm X Academy. And right here in Oakland, the KIPP Foundation, run by John Fisher, and also Rocket Ship Charter Schools, run by John Fisher, is right here in Oakland. Closing down public schools, putting up private schools. And a lot of teachers have been laid off in Oakland. They say they don't have enough money for schools. Make the billionaires pay. Let's get a capital tax. They're profiting from this pandemic. Their wealth has gone up billions and billions of dollars, and yet they're closing down schools. And right here in Oakland, John Fisher, well, guess what? Dave Cavall, he's on the board of directors of Rocket Ship Charter School. So here you have Dave Cavall, who's pushing to bribe and blackmail the people of Oakland, is on the board of charter school Rocket Ship here in Oakland. So it's a double standard, it's wrong, and what we're saying here is we have to stop this privatization. We have to defend the port. We have to defend the jobs. We want working class housing. You know how we'll get it? Make the billionaires pay. Make Fisher pay. A 50% capital tax on Fisher would pay for working class homes. And this is what we need. I mean, the idea though, and again I'm going to get to that, why are tax dollars being spent to build a stadium for $1 billion? Why doesn't the state legislature pass a tax bill for a 50% tax on the billionaires in California to pay for public housing? Why are they talking about taxing working people for public housing? That's something I'd like to know. Why would you be taxing working people for public housing when you can put a 50% capital tax on the billionaires in California? And there's so many billionaires. Every day there's a new billionaire, new sale, new IPO. So the billionaires are growing. I mean, there's a lot of money that they're getting. It needs to go to the people of Oakland, the people of California.
Yes.
That's where we need to have the money. So we're saying stop privatization, defend the port now. 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 So our first speaker is Gennaro Baltrep. He's on the executive board of ILW Local 10, and he's been an activist in fighting against privatization. Welcome.
My name is Gennaro Baltrep. I'm a rank and file member of ILW Local 10, and I also sit on the executive board.
Yeah.
I just want to say it doesn't really make a lot of sense that the aides would like to move to the port. I know aesthetically it looks nice, but when you have a whole area where there's transit and everything that's in place, there's BART. there's at the Coliseum, there's BART, there's Amtrak, there's all kind of ways of getting to that stadium, and it's already in place. They've already taken down streets and made streets wider in East Oakland just so that they could have traffic move through that area a little bit better so that people could commute to the stadium. So it doesn't make sense that John Fisher and the Oakland Aids would like to move to the Port of Oakland, where we have noise going on all day long. I have to wear earplugs in my ear just so I don't have to hear it. Who wants to live in a condominium and pay millions and billions of dollars to live somewhere and you can't even hear nothing? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just want to let you guys know that we need to be in support of keeping the Port of Oakland strong and not privatizing the port for millionaires and billionaires, because the working class people need a place to work. I go and pull a ticket out that hall and I go to work, and most of the time I'm working in Oakland, and the majority of the jobs are here in Oakland, and we need to stay in support of not privatizing our ports and working with I'm just going to leave it at that. We don't need to privatize the port. We don't need to privatize the port. No privatization of the Port of Oakland. We need to stand up and fight for labor. Labor is jobs that pay good and have union benefits. Because I'm not trying to knock somebody for selling some peanuts at the stadium, but when you build a stadium, you're not giving people the amount of money that they need to live and have the cost of living as the prices are going up in Oakland, and you see all this homelessness going on, and this man wants to build condominiums. It doesn't make any sense. We got people living in tents all over the city of Oakland. We do not need to privatize the port. We need to make the port stronger, and we need to make sure that people have good, decent jobs and living wages and benefits in this world. That's what we need in this society. We don't need privatization of the ports for millionaires. And I'm definitely a taxpaying citizen in Oakland, and I don't want to pay for some stadium.
Hello everyone, my name is Janice Smith. I'm also a member of the ILWU Local 10. The Oakland A's proposal to put a stadium and luxury commercial development at our working waterfront is putting Oakland workers, businesses, and our jobs at risk. Also, the Ballpark Village project at the Coliseum would generate the same new construction and permanent jobs without the risk of displacing existing career full-time union jobs. And as he said, it doesn't make any sense to put a stadium over there when we already have the situation. They can stay at the Coliseum. There's transportation there that done made different streets and easier to get to. Why take jobs from us hard-working workers, you know, to build their condominiums? The billionaires, the millionaires, they already have. They really don't care what happened to us blue-collar people. So I just stand for and keep the Port of Oakland. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out here, everybody. My name's Joe. I live here in Oakland. I'm a merchant seaman and also a longshoreman recently in the past 2 years, and it's good to be a member of both of those unions. I've also been a member of the Inland Boatmen's Union and for a time the Masters, Mates, and Pilots, working on the tugboats around here. So these are good jobs here in the Port of Oakland, aboard the ship and on the dock, that lift people up. And we need to defend these jobs and come together as working people. This stadium project is being proposed under a special infrastructure financing district, where the two areas of development, the Coliseum and the Jack London Square area, all the property tax increases on that property, the property tax they're going to be taking that will be plowed right back into those areas, and the city at large, the school district, money for the roads will not have access to that. So as a taxpayer as well, and the people of Oakland, we need to say that this is not right, the way our taxpayer dollars are being spent, and we need that infrastructure. You know, just here in the Port of Oakland, you drive down 7th Street, these roads are all beat up down there. And we need that infrastructure for maritime use as well. So it's good to see everybody out here, and I hope we can continue to work together on things like this as they come up. Thank you.
I'm Coleman Rosenberg, and I'm with Masters, Mates, and Pilots. I'm a rank and file union member, and in fact, I'm a third-generation union member. And the Port of Oakland is a huge employer. It provides hundreds and hundreds of union jobs this city and this country desperately need. If you want to see what happens when you get rid of a port and get rid of union jobs in the maritime world, look at the city of Vallejo. A beautiful, thriving city, and the port shut down, the unions left, not by their choice, and the city of Vallejo was bankrupt a decade ago. It's bouncing back now, but it killed Vallejo, and getting rid of union maritime jobs could kill Oakland. Getting rid of the port could kill Oakland. And building a stadium in the port where my friends and family in the ILWU stage their cargo to make the port efficient, to make the port less pollution because they're not idling in the streets, would potentially kill the port. But it's not just idling trucks that cause pollution. If the stadium is built at the Howard Terminal, those trucks would idle in the street, making it impossible to find parking, impossible to get to your baseball game. But right now, if you go to the current stadium, you've got parking, you've got BART, you've got freeway access, you've got options. If the port moves, or the stadium moves to Howard Terminal, you lose options. There's no parking. 5 years after it opens, everyone's going to be complaining about how they can't park at their game. They're going to complain about how loud the port is. If you haven't worked in a port, you have no idea how loud a port is. And let me tell you, everyone in my industry who doesn't wear hearing protection gets hearing loss over time. No one's going to want to pay to live in a fancy, expensive condo where they go deaf and can't get to their condo because stadium traffic, because port traffic, and worse port traffic than it is now because you've got hundreds and hundreds of trucks that'll be idling if they lose the Howard Terminal. It could crush Oakland's economy. And on top of that, you drive the unions out. Union approvals at a 50-year high in this country. The ILWU, along with the other maritime unions like mine, Masters, Mates, and Pilots, provide many jobs, well-paying jobs that provide jobs for many people of color. And if you move the stadium in, those jobs will vanish. Another pollution factor is if those jobs vanish, ships are going to have to be even less efficient moving to LA or Long Beach or Seattle, skipping Oakland, and adding more pollution there. If you support the environment, don't complain about Schwitzer Steel alone, because yes, that is a problem, but that's a separate issue. Don't just think about that. Think about extra hundreds of miles for ships. When you're moving something the size of a city block, hundreds of miles costs thousands and thousands of pounds of fuel, not gallons, tons of fuel. Save the environment, save the economy, save the Port of Oakland.
My name is John Ryman, R-E-I-M-A-N-N. I'm the former recording secretary and an expelled member of Carpenters Local 713 in Alameda County. I was expelled for fighting for the membership. And in regards to what Steve said, basically the policy of the building trades, really, like almost all unions, is to support, quote, our own contractors against the membership. That is why, in fact, that the whole organizing program of the building trades has been an absolute disaster for 50 years. I'm also a 50-plus year resident in what used to be called the Funktown area of Oakland. Now, I listened to the city council meeting this morning, and it seems like the A's might be actually moving to Las Vegas. I think that's a possibility. The reason for that is that the city council members were not able to completely roll over on their backs and play dead. And the reason for that is there was two pressures. One was from the residents of Oakland who don't want to see this deal, and the other that's hanging over their heads is the hundreds of millions of dollars that the city of Oakland had to cough up for the renovation of the Oakland Coliseum, which has been a huge disgrace for the city of Oakland. And I think that first of all, we should oppose this stadium deal if for no other reason than for environmental reasons, because we are facing an absolute climate emergency. We cannot forget about that. And this stadium proposal is nothing but a vanity project which will work against working class people in Oakland. But aside from that, it will be one more project that will help accelerate global warming and climate disaster. I also would like to add that I think that we would be in a stronger position here in Oakland if we could force the Port of Oakland to pay taxes to the city as most other ports in the state of California do. So I think that we should tie it with that. Now, a lot has been said about community benefits, and that was the sticking point at the city council today. This so-called community benefits is nothing but hush money. It's nothing but a bribe to a bunch of non-profiteers and small businesses to keep their mouths shut at the expense of the overwhelming majority of workers and residents here in Oakland.
That's right, buy them off.
And so, we also have to understand some of the basic facts around this deal. We have to understand that this whole thing, it's not about the Oakland A's stadium. This is a $13 billion real estate development deal, of which only $1 billion is going to the stadium. So it's a real estate development deal hiding behind a stadium. And that has been the common practice among sports team owners all throughout the country. Now, second, as far as the so-called affordable housing, the A's have committed themselves to build 3,000 units of supposedly affordable housing. Affordable housing is a hoax because it's always geared to a percentage of the average income in that area. And since the average income is going to be going up and up and up because of these expensive condos, then what's supposedly affordable will be going up and up. And we also have to understand in relation to that, years ago I saw a proposal, a plan by basically major corporate interests here in Alameda County. And their plan was to make Western Alameda County bedroom, middle class and upper communities, and make Eastern Alameda County more of an industrial area. And so if this ends up in closure of the entire Port of Oakland, they don't care. That's not on their radar screen. Now, as far as the jobs issue, they say, oh, well, you know, the stadium is going to create a lot of jobs. Well, what are the actual facts on that? All independent academic studies throughout the country show that jobs for a sports stadium are almost nil. I'll quote you just one. Michael Leeds, a sports economist at Temple University. He said that if you ever had a consensus in economics, this would be it. There is no impact from sports stadiums. If every sports team in Chicago were to suddenly disappear, the impact on the Chicago economy would be a fraction of 1%. A baseball team has about the same impact on a community as a mid-sized department store. So the whole jobs issue is just a fraud. There have been other studies which have said the same thing. There's also studies which show the gentrification of stadiums. And Dave Cavell, who's a mouthpiece for John Fisher, has said, well, the stadium proposal would be like Ayala Stadium down in San Jose, which has resulted in massive gentrification. Another study showed that that there was massive gentrification in Washington when the National Stadium was completed. 42, and I don't have time for all the figures, but just to say, for instance, the changes in it mostly resulted in upper class single young white professionals moving in, that the percentage of those with incomes over $200,000 per year went up 5 times over. The percentage of the black population declined by 50%. So the A's are hiding behind the happy face of Dave Cavell, but the real face is John Fisher, that multi-billionaire who was responsible largely for the gentrification of San Francisco and is also a major privatizer. He's in with Betsy DeVos of Donald Trump fame and so on. Finally, we have to follow the money. Who runs the city of Oakland? And you follow the money, as I said. If you look, for instance, at Mayor Yuppie Schaaf, major campaign donors for her 2020 campaign for mayor included Michael Kovarabias, a developer, TMG Partners, Wayne Jordan of Jordan Real Estate Investment, Mark Kroll of Ceres Regis Group, a real estate developer, and Jack Myers of Myers Development Company. And again, I could take a half an hour to read through the list. And it's interesting that the #1 voice of the left, in quotes, of the city council, Rebecca Kaplan, has similar donors. She started out as an environmental activist. She's got similar donors. And none of them are committed in principle to opposing this rotten deal for gentrification, the destruction of jobs, and so on. So what we need here in Oakland, we need to have working class representatives run for the city, run for city council and for city offices, who openly and directly pose a complete break with the Democratic Party that runs the city of Oakland, and it's the liberal wing of the Democratic Party that runs it. Oakland can set the pace for that, just as we can set an example for the rest of the country in refusing to buckle down to the extortionary demands of John Fisher. We can set an example for starting to build a working class party by running working class representatives in the next election here in Oakland next year. Thank you.
The reason why I say that, because I just got off of a 4-hour call with the city council. They need to all go, except for Gallo, because see, Gallo's old school. He's from Oakland. That's what you call an Oakland boy. Every weekend he goes and clean up his area. What other city council person go clean up? Nobody else. I just got off the phone. Everybody voted for the Howard Terminal except for Niall Gallo, because he's old school. He's been around forever. He's one of us. One of us working class. His family, wife, everybody. Now Fife, she was on the fence. If you guys didn't know, this is what's going on a couple hours ago. She abstained. She's on the fence. Larry Reed's daughter, Treva Reed, did what her dad would do. Voted for Howard Terminal. Outright. She's new. How dare you? We try to tell people in District 7 that she's going to be like her daddy, and that's what she is, like her daddy. She can't think. She has her own, she doesn't have her own mind. I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying. I can back up everything I say. Rebecca Kaplan, what? You trying to be the mayor. Guess what? We're not going to forget that. We're not going to forget that. If I got to close down East 14th Street and stand on the freeway, she is not going to be mayor. She can't think for herself. What's wrong? Identity crisis? Oops, did I say that? Identity crisis. Wow, it just came out, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Becca. My thing is that, and Shaw Poe, you came from a background, single parent. When I heard you talk, I felt sorry for you, of your beginnings, of your humble beginnings. You know who this is gonna hurt. And in Bass, oh my God, Chinatown, that's in your area. She voted for Howard Terminal. What kind of kickbacks are they getting, you guys? We got to find out. We got to find out, because this is a horrible deal. Only one who's going to, and I'm not, you know what, you guys, stop saving Dave Cavell. Dave Cavell is Mr. Fisher puppet. You understand what a puppet is? You do this, Dave. No, Dave. No, Dave. No. That's what Dave Cavell is. He can't stand up for himself. He's not a man. I always wondered what that high-pitched voice was. Now I know. Now I know. I'm not ashamed. I'm from the hood. I'm from East, West, and North Oakland. I'm from all of it. You got me? I'm an alumni of McClymonds High School. And that's what we do. We was a family at that high school. Our teachers were like our mothers. The men were like our fathers. And that's the upbringing that I had. I'm saying this is a horrible deal. I don't care which way you want to chop it up. And if you guys think that that area looks bad, yeah, it doesn't look all that cute. But guess what? Biden is finna bring down here a whole lot of money for infrastructure. That's what real infrastructure is. They have the community. Not to make Mr. Fisher be a trillionaire. That man's owed the Gap, so next time y'all go to the Gap, Old Navy, he owns that. He owns Banana Republic, he owns that. And the charter schools. Now the charter schools, guess what? Let me tell you something about the charter schools real quick. They get subsidized. You see where I'm going with that? He's living off of subsidized money off of our black and brown children that go to these charter schools. If they have special needs, charter schools don't take care of children that has IEP or any learning disabilities. Let me get it straight. And rocket ship. You understand what I'm saying? Our children are traumatized out here for whatever reason. And let me tell you something. I was on the CBA also. I was on the community benefit agreement. Agreement is just agreement, but it's not a contract. You see what I'm saying? My nephew's a billionaire developer in Fresno. He told me, Auntie, agreement is not the same thing. I get it, baby. It's not the same thing as a contract. We cannot fall into Mr. Fisher's dreams. It's a fantasy island, y'all. And you know what he said about our black children here? Well, I was very insulted. He said the black children here. Now, this is what he said, because I was on the education cohort. Because I couldn't think what education cohort got to do with baseball. He said that the children of West Oakland, I not want to get emotional, said that they were disoriented. You know, they're not together. That's what he said. They're not together. They ain't got no parents. You said it, racist. They're on drugs, being raised by their grandma, auntie. They're on their own. They're running wild. That's what he said. And I had to get off, because I was raised in West Oakland. I had to get off the cohort. And guess what? Have y'all heard anything they said about education with the cohort, y'all? Have anybody? Has anybody heard anything about the education about our black and brown children in West Oakland? Come on now, stand up.
Privatization, that's it.
That's it. He gonna do more charter schools. He got Kip on 18th and Market Street. Used to be Lafayette. He had one room, then he had one floor, then he built over it in the corner. Now this year he's this way. I got great-grandkids that have special needs. They got kicked out in 1 month. They got kicked out. They got their rules, man. If you don't follow their rules, you get kicked out. Luckily, they still had room at the old school that they had, because they was only gone for 1 month. Within 1 month, they got kicked out. Now what's that gonna do with them for the rest of their life? That they're no good. I can't, what happened? I was at the school, I had the uniform on. I did what they said. I was at school. But guess what? I got a learning disability. So this is what they do. They throw me away like trash. We cannot. We're going to have to do something, you guys. And I don't want this to be on tape, but I think we need to do something, closing down some streets. Close down some freeways.
Oh, yeah.
We got to do something, because today, they all was punks today. And I'm not ashamed to say it. What y'all going to do about it? Ain't it free speech? I'm going to do the commandments, or whatever they say. It's not right. All right, Jesse. It ain't right. It ain't right. It ain't right. We have got to do something, you guys. We cannot let that happen down there in West Oakland, in my area. Those people are going to get, crime is going to go up.
What's happening now? The police can't even stop it. They can't even stop it, you guys. It's going to get worse over there. And those ships cannot turn in that basin.
That's right.
They can't turn in the basin, so we can't get our toilet tissue. Everything that comes from Japan, Hong Kong, and all the motherfucking places. Let me tell you something. All these months that we had this pandemic, and all the months that people were sitting at home, the longshoremen were still working.
That's right.
They were still working. So we're going to allow these people right here. These people, they sleep and eat just like we do, and pee and have blood just like us. They're really human. But I'll be damned if I let them come around and say, yay, 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 like they just did today. I just got off the phone, see? I'm on the bus, and I still want to listen to it. I still got it. I'm listening on the bus. It ain't Mr. Cavell, he the puppet, y'all. Start saying Mr. Fisher.
Right, exactly.
Stop saying Cavell. Stop saying it. It's not him, he's the puppet.
Right.
And guess what? It might get like mafia. Now, I ain't predicted nothing. I ain't one of them people to predict nothing. But what do we find Mr. Cavell like mafia do when people don't do right with the mafia? What happens? You find him in the water.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Hubbard. I was born and raised in West Oakland, Ghost Town. When I heard about this, it was news to me because I haven't heard about it at all. But the first thing that came to mind is just some random facts, and I just like to express those random facts today. Random fact number one is majority of places to work, not only in Oakland, but in all of America, are not union organized, which means whoever owns that company can hire and fire you whenever they please. My union, which I am new to, SUP, Sailors Union Pacific, just like every other union that we are here to defend now, are unionized, which means we have somebody in our job supporting us just in case anything goes wrong. Second fact, this job does not care about race or sex. If you want a job and you are an intellectual hard worker, you can move up in the ranks very quickly, just like everyone else. All you have to do is put in the time and the work. You will have people within your union aiding you every step of the way. I have never in my life worked for a company with a union that aided me in the way this union does, that has provided me with everything that I would need to achieve my job and move beyond. Destroying the Oakland port would be a massive blow to every individual that works on that port. The sheer destructive force of taking hundreds, if not thousands of people out of their job. Not only that, but destroying the union is catastrophic to any city that it happens to. Which is why I am here, not only to support my union, but to support every union that the Oakland Port provides. Because if they can take that away, they will begin to take everything else that they can get their hands on. And the last point is this. When it comes to billionaires creating infrastructure, it always seems like there's an agenda behind it, and they always want to additionalize all the good things that could possibly happen. It is always good to create new jobs. But that Oakland Aid Center, it will not have unionized jobs. It will not pay the same wages that we are getting paid. You will not be able to go across country. You won't be able to do hours that you need to do to provide for your families. And you will not get paid the same. So I just want to thank everybody here today. I appreciate being informed about this, and if we ever have to do something else, please let me know, because I will always defend my union and yours as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charles Rackless. I'm a public worker, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Communist Workers Group, and we're supporting the United Front Committee for a Labor Party, which initiated this action against privatization and for a Labor Party. We feel that we need to have mass actions, and we need to have independent working-class political party to fight for the interests of the working class. We've seen what the Democrats and Republicans can do. They can stall and they can cut deals. They go up to the state Senate and to the state Assembly, and they write regulations and laws so that they can allow people like Fisher to come in here and develop in his own interests. And who is this Fisher? We've seen him around for years. Where does he make that stuff that he sells at the Gap? And how's it get over here? And we know that it's made in sweatshops in China, and it's the wages there are kept down by the Stalinist capitalist leaders of China, and they're in a block with these imperialist developers in the United States, like Fisher, who owns the Gap stores, etc. And today the Fishers have threatened to pack up their team and leave for the hot and dry and soon to be uninhabitable desert where unions are weak and wages are low. We say use eminent domain to nationalize the A's and put it under workers' control. Why are the developers and the team leaders allowed to own these resources that should be owned by the people? We say the large sections of the Howard Terminal are under asphalt and concrete caps that are polluted by historic and current use. The A's manager cynically advocated for the project as a clean alternative to the 23,000 nearby residents of West Oakland. They claim they're going to help these residents. Well, if the capitalist class wanted to help clean up West Oakland, they would have done it by now. This is not new news. It's been in the news year after year. As for the politicians, they balk and bend, but they've done little or nothing to protect the families and bring jobs here. The Democratic Party State Senator Nancy Skinner and Rob Bonta, as mentioned before, are the ones that wrote the regulations to support Fisher making his development there. And then what did the city do? They offered a 66-year lease without a rent increase for 20 years. Anybody here have to rent and not pay rent increase for the last 20 years? Why should the taxpayers here have to subsidize the lack of a rent increase for the inhabitants over there? In the news yesterday, the Democrats in the City Council were backing down from their 30% affordable housing floor and will probably go down to 15%, while the A's are still offering 0% affordable housing. The community-based organizations say they want 100% affordable housing, but two CBOs that we heard on the KPFA radio morning show yesterday said that they would accept the 35%. It looks like the lock is in for 35% when we need 100% affordable housing. The fact is the Democrats have allowed developers to build all over the downtown. And they've done little or nothing to ensure affordable housing and union construction jobs for the local working class black and brown populations who are being gentrified and driven further out of the urban centers to far off suburbia with limited job opportunities and long commutes. Today, the proposal for the stadium has the union bureaucrats of the building trades and the Alameda Labor Council facing off against the workers and leaders of the ILWU Longshore. Both unions regularly support the boss's capitalist Democratic Party, which hand in hand with the developers, banksters, and the Pacific Merchant Association pit one group of workers against each other, making common cause for one or the other against the project.
On the one side, we have the building trades union bureaucrats making common cause with the developers, pushing for short-term projects for some 3,000 construction workers. Now we've witnessed the building trades bureaucrats allow two-gate non-union development all over this town. Rather than initiating organizing drives and strikes and job site occupations, they send business agents out to take pictures of non-union sites and send them over to Cal OSHA in hopes that Cal OSHA is going to swat at them and that gets the job done. We need real organizing of the unorganized. What's the ILWU doing to protect their jobs? Are they making common cause with the PMA, or are they preparing to have strikes and occupations? I think that they need to start to prepare to have strikes, occupations, mass demonstrations to stop the privatization, and stop playing footsie with the PMA and the Democrats. Make no mistake, the encroachment into the port will squeeze those operations in many ways, already enumerated by the speakers here. Noise, expectations for the new residents, increased traffic, and limits to the stevedoring companies. But beware, these stevedoring companies, who owns SSA is Goldman Sachs. So you've got Goldman Sachs on one side facing off against the Fishers on the other side. It's two wings of the capitalist class trying to engage the working class against itself. We need to unite the working class and fight for jobs for all, and fight for 30 hours work for 40 hours pay. And we have to say that we need a workers' labor party that organizes all the workers to organize the unorganized, to unite these seemingly opposed wings of the labor movement and use class struggle methods such as the mass actions, strikes, and general strikes to win.
Hi, I'm speaking as a rank and file member of the Union of Professional and Technical Employees. I'm a medical interpreter at UCSF. I support ILWU and the fight against the construction of the A Stadium in Howard Terminal and against the destruction of Howard Terminal. I'd also like to say that as unions, we really need to stick together. As rank and file members, we need to stick together with unions, with our fellow brothers and sisters in other unions, because this really affects everybody. I mean, when a lot has been talked about Don Fisher and the charter school and his involvement in privatization of charter schools, where, well, City College of San Francisco is also on being attacked. As workers in the UC, every time we have our strikes, every time we have had to have our contract negotiations, we have to defend our pension because they keep trying to impose a defined contribution pension on us, which leaves people penniless, basically, instead of the public pension. Now, this movement of financial capitalists who are attacking workers, they are basically taking the money not only at the resident level of Oakland workers who live here in our sales tax and income tax and all that kind of stuff, but also it's affecting us in many other ways as well. Whenever we contribute with our money towards these privatized pensions that many organizations have, these private companies have, our money goes into paying for our own destruction. It goes into these billionaires' hands, these financial asset management companies who so-called manage our money, and that money goes into precisely investments into these billionaire companies, such as the Robert Johnson family, and all of them, they're all a family. These billionaires have been trying to destroy public education for the past 50 years, and they've been doing pretty well at it, actually. So we really need to support each other and give the support to the teachers, the hospital workers. Public health is, specifically during this pandemic, it was unmasked, the level of poverty that our system actually has. Even though there's millions of dollars that they are getting for this, in reality, the nurses at UC during the pandemic had to literally go out and step outside and have rallies demanding protective equipment. Basically, the public health system of this country is in shambles, and we should really be ashamed because we're in California, which is supposedly a democratic state.
Yeah!
So we can't blame the Republicans for this. We can, obviously there's a national policies that affect the state of California as well. But in reality, we need to look in our own backyard and look at these Democrats and demand that they respond to the needs of the people. Public health has been defunded. Education is being defunded. The Lumina Foundation has gotten their claws into the public education and the city college by imposing this online education instead of in person, practically decimating the teachers. And at University of California, one of the third major employers of this state, if I'm not mistaken, they're getting billions of dollars. So they do not have any right to be reducing any kind of support in any way. I'm sorry?
It is the biggest employer, number one.
The main employer, correct. The main employer of California. And on the board, on the regents of this, of the University of California is Richard Blum, the husband of Dianne Feinstein, and as well as many other billionaires. And we need to demand that public money and public lands become public money and public lands, basically. We need to stop union busting, stop privatization, and that money belongs to us. Thank you.